Upgrades.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another JVS movie review. Today, we are bringing you a surprisingly good, I don't know if this is a sequel. It could be considered a sequel. And this one is Smurfs. Here's a quick synopsis. When Papa Smurf is mysteriously taken by the evil wizard Razamel, Smurfette leads the Smurfs on a mission into the real world to save him. With help from her new friends, the Smurfs must discover what defines their destiny to save the universe. It's directed by Chris Miller. It stars, if you've seen a poster, you know it stars Rihanna at this point. It stars James Corden, Josh Goodman, and Nick Offerman. Now, if anyone remembers the last Smurfs movie, it wasn't something that got out of the realm of that like 12 to 6-year-old area that the Smurfs tend to operate under for their feature presentations. But here, amazingly, with this movie, with a change in animation, which if you've seen the Ninja Turtles, possibly a little bit of Spider-Verse, you can see the different form of animation that they choose to go with this Smurfs movie. And with a story that is actually interesting. This Smurfs movie is unlike any Smurf movie before it, as we're introduced to the Smurfs being happy-go-lucky, and we're introduced to no-name Smurf, played by James Corden. And I'll say this, the weakest part of this film is the two leads in the film for the voice part of it. And that's James and Rihanna. As I don't know if it's because their voices are so recognizable, it doesn't feel like you're actually getting into them being the characters that they're voicing. It just sticks out way too much for some odd reason through the entire course of the film. And Rihanna has done animation before and voice animation, and she did with Jim Parsons years ago really, really well. And it wasn't as obvious as it is now. It feels like it's so obvious because if you remember the Smurf, Smurfette was never the lead Smurf. She was never the lead Smurf. She was an interesting Smurf, but never the lead one. And they've forgone all of that past history of the Smurfs to make the biggest person, the biggest star of the film, the lead of the film. And at times, it just comes across as a little gimmicky. And even James as no-name Smurf, who should possibly be the lead of the film, same thing. It's like Cats all over again. If you saw Cats with him in it, it's just too much and too recognizable, and it just never dives deep into the character. But again, what saved this film is that this story is very interesting. What saved this film is that the remainder of the cast, including an amazing performance playing Papa Smurf's brother by Nick Offerman, are great. Like, this movie survives because this is the first time in a while that we've gotten a film that's clearly geared towards children that still manages to give a story interesting enough to keep adults entertained throughout the movie. It is very heartfelt, very warm feeling. It's a fun Smurf adventure that you're in for the Smurfs film. And Chris Miller, who's coming off of one of the best, to me, mainstream animated films in Puss in Boots. And even the animation style of Puss in Boots is very reminiscent of the animation style we get here in the Smurfs. But also, it's his ability to interject just a heart and an amazing story into these type of characters that pushes the Smurfs beyond what it should be. Even Razamel and Gargamel, who are brothers, Razamel's character in this film is amazing. He's an amazing villain in this movie. He has so much humor. The punchlines are always there. Stuff like that of that nature is what compels or propels the Smurf movie to be much better than it should be throughout the entire course of the movie. And at a short run, it's not something that you're going to sit long through. And the story is good enough and intriguing enough where even James and Rihanna voices throwing you off, I think kids will still be thoroughly entertained throughout this entire film. This is one of the rare films we get, especially this summer with children movies besides possibly Lilo and Stitch, which was a hit but wasn't necessarily as good as the animated film that came out. But here we get something that I think kids will just be enthralled by as they watch it, and that is always a positive thing. But again, the key part with the Smurfs is that as a parent, you'll sit through this movie and you'll be just as entertained as your kids. Again, as we get to the stories of No Name Smurf is him attempting to find his purpose in life. That's the whole goal of this movie. As James plays No Name Smurf, who needs to find out what is his Smurf power throughout the film. And we go on this journey of him trying to discover what his power is. And at the same time, discovering what his power is, we have another plot of the film of Razamel and the wizards attempting to take over the world, but needing a special book that Papa Smurf took from him to actually do it. So when you get two parallel stories running to each other, and then they are blended perfectly together to make it an amazing adventure, like that's one thing about this Smurfs movie. I didn't go into it knowing that they would go live action at a particular point in the film. I just thought this was a straight animation, and the animation is so well done for this film, and it keeps you so intrigued in it. And then when they do go into the real world and you get those elements of it, it's still intriguing. And they never jeopardize the animation style from straight animation world to real world, where it feels like it's off a little bit. Like this feels perfectly blended together, unlike I want to say possibly the first Smurfs film when they went live action and it just kind of seemed a little weird. But here, none of that weirdness exists. And it's because they keep an amazing animation style. And Chris does a beautiful job of blending the Smurfs world with the real world to keep you intrigued throughout this huge adventure. Because that's all this movie is. This movie is all about the pursuit of finding out who you are and what it means to be who you are, along with Rihanna singing multiple songs, it feels like, in this film to keep you intrigued if that's your thing. And then along the course of the way, you get a very interesting villain. We get even Gargamel shows up. So, like, we get everything that you would want in a Smurfs film, just executed at a level that Smurfs films have never been executed at. And it's something to keep parents and children intrigued. So Smurfs, which drops this Friday, out of a possible 10, I am going to give Smurfs a 7.5 out of 10. This is a really good kids film that's going to also keep adults' attention. And I think that's the most important element of it. This is the best Smurfs film. This is the best adaptation you're going to get of these characters on screen. Granted, while it does have issues with the two leads and the voice cast, it still doesn't manage to take away from a really entertaining story that this film is telling you. Something, again, that I think for anyone who grew up on the Smurfs, this film is going to give you everything you would want out of a Smurfs film. Easily. Granted, you will question why Smurfette the lead, and why isn't like Handy Smurf or one of the Brandy Smurf, any of these other Vanity Smurf, any other Smurfs that we remember growing up watching the Smurfs. And why would they compel Smurfette to the lead? Granted, if you know the backstory of Smurfette, it does make sense as it attempts to come together by the third act of possibly why they made her closer to the lead of it, or even why they introduced a brand new Smurf in the film that also takes a co-lead with her. But nonetheless, you still get everything you could possibly want in a Smurfs film with also Papa Smurf's brothers. Like you can't beat it. But check it out this Friday. Let us know what you think. This has been another JVS movie review. Peace, people.